J&J Show, Power 109. Big news out of New York. 2 New York police officers gunned down as they sat in their patrol cars outside of a Brooklyn Bed-Stuy neighborhood on a special detail that they were on. They were shot by 28-year-old
Ismail Brinsley.
And reports are saying basically that he just walked up to the car while they were sitting there eating lunch and just let off several rounds into the heads of both of these police officers. Police officer Wing John Liu and 40-year-old Rafael Ramos, who had just gotten married 2 months ago, was the father of a 13-year-old boy. And these shootings are suspected to be in retaliation for the deaths of Eric Garner and Michael Brown. Ismail Brinsley made posts on his Facebook account to the effect of, shoot these pigs, this is for Eric Garner, this is for Michael Brown, they take one of ours, let's take 2 of theirs, things like that. So this is somebody who obviously felt strongly about those transactions with Eric Garner and Michael Brown, just like the rest of us did, but his was to another level.
Right.
You know, this right here is the kind of violence that, number one, is totally unnecessary. 2, it does nothing really to help the cause.
Mm-hmm.
3, you sort of shame and taint the legacies of Eric Garner and Michael Brown with foolishness like this. You know, you want to uplift those families, and this is not how you do it. But I have to say this. When I saw the headline, it didn't shake me. It didn't rock me like that type of headline normally would. And I had to do some soul searching and some reflecting and really think about why that was. Am I just desensitized to violence? No. Am I just not sympathetic to police officers losing their lives? It's not that. I guess part of why it didn't shake me like it normally would is because I know the frustration that's out there right now. Not saying I condone this type of activity, but I understand the frustration that exists right now and where it comes from. When you feel like people that you pay your tax money to put their salaries, and these people are not doing their jobs or overdoing their jobs or doing their jobs in the opposite way, whereas then they're hired to serve and protect, but they're killing and murdering. Anybody who's felt frustration from that, I believe, felt the same way I did when I first saw that headline, which was like, oh, okay, well, what is this? Let's go and see what's up. There was no damn. Oh, my fucking goodness. Wow. The world is crazy. What's going on? There's none of that.
Look, man, everybody knows why that is. I mean, let's go ahead and tell it exactly like it is, okay? There was so much outrage and anger over these situations with Michael Brown, Eric Garner, and it's been building up with all the rest of these guys who have been shot or had their lives taken unnecessarily in the past. And of course, I'm talking about black men. So these were just the most recent high-profile cases. And as a result of nothing being done about it, let's make that clear, nothing being done about it, never were these people indicted, not even indicted, for doing the shit that they did. So it's just like, oh, well, another black man lost his life. It's a tragedy. Shouldn't have happened, but, oh, well, let's just keep it fucking moving. And
not only that, man, but if you look at the police response after each of these incidents, it was sort of like, okay, let's protect our own. Yeah. Let's not look out for the facts. Let's not afford due process to the situation. Let's look out for our own. Let's protect our own. Let's hide details, hide facts, hide evidence. Let's pretend as if there is no way, shape, form, or fashion that we could have been wrong in this situation.
Right.
And to take that stance, it does absolutely nothing but create a us versus them type of atmosphere. And when you do that, you're telling the public, look, we don't give a fuck about you. It's about us.
Yeah.
So then the public subsequently feels like, well, then we have to look out for our own. And when something happens to one of them, it's going to be difficult for us to feel that sympathy.
Look,
because look at what you did to us. Look at what you took from us. And then you turned around and acted as if, well, they had it coming. Well, if they hadn't done X, Y, and Z, they would still be here right now. We did what we had to do. You didn't have to fucking choke that man.
Nope. Not at all.
That was a fucking technique that was banned by the police department of New York. You didn't have to do that. Yes, he was big. Yes, he was obese. But here's the thing. If Eric Garner was 5'7", 140 pounds, and the exact same thing, he got choked and pulled to the ground and whatever the case was, they would have had an excuse for that.
Yeah.
And Eric Garner's case, he was too fat.
Right.
And motherfucker 5'7", 140, he was too frail. They would dig up his fucking medical records 15 years ago.
Right.
Oh, he had a condition. And the condition, he had fucking gangrene. Yeah. He had gingivitis. They would have made anything to make it look at it like it was his fault, and the police were simply doing what it is that police do. And if it were not for his condition, then he would still be with us. And that's fucking unfair. And not only is it unfair, but you belittle the intelligence of the people when you do shit like this. And nothing angers a fucking adult more than anything than to belittle their intelligence. And that's basically what the police do to us time and time again. So while these officers were innocent and did not deserve that type of demise, you look at the situation, you look at the totality of everything that's going on, and you have to, on some level, come to the conclusion, I kind of expected this.
Look here, man. Look here.
At some point or another,
look.
I kind of expected this.
Hey, listen. And this is not about tooting our own horn, but motherfuckers need to start listening, okay? Because I'm going to go way the fuck back. Jay and I predicted this, okay? Jay and I have predicted a lot of this shit that has been going on these last few years. If you guys remember, a lot of our loyal listeners will remember this. We did a show a few years ago about white kids, white victims versus black victims, okay? And how they never wanted to even put a story about a black victim on a major news show, all right? They would talk about little Kaylee Anthony, they would talk about Lacey Peterson way back, John Benet Ramsey and all these, but they never talk about a black victim. 2 weeks after that show aired, the next high-profile case, Trayvon Martin. And that was all over the fucking news, right? Because we said some shit. Now, when this whole thing happened with Eric Garner and Michael Brown and shit, I said, you know what? This won't matter until a regular fucking person decides to shoot a cop. Not saying that he should shoot a cop, but if he were to shoot a cop, that's when everybody be all fucking up in arms and say how it was so unnecessary. Yep. And what happens? Right now, it's happening. Right now. We see this shit from a fucking mile away. So if you listen, you're going to know what the fuck is going on before it ever happens. It's like the riots after the Rodney King thing. You knew shit was going to happen. So with this particular situation, no, these particular cops did not deserve to be gunned down like that at all. I understand that. I will say this, man. If it were Darren Wilson or George Zimmerman or Pantaleo that took a bullet, I would almost feel like justice is served. I don't know if I'm right for saying that, but to me, those guys are murderers. They're fucking murderers. You can say Michael Brown did this and Michael Brown did that. I don't believe it. I'm not buying it. You can say Trayvon Martin did this and Trayvon Martin did that. Again, not buying it. You can say Eric Garner did this and did that. He shouldn't have resisted it. Not buying it. The people that took these black men off of this earth are murderers. They're fucking low-level murderers. But they get away with it because they have that fucking uniform on. They get away with it because they got that goddamn badge. They get away with it because they're white. And until motherfuckers look at these situations and start recognizing shit for what it is, we're going to keep seeing this time and time again. Black man gunned down, unarmed, innocent. And the police aren't even tried. You ain't talking about convictions. Not even tried. Meaning we can't even have a conversation. Look, they did what they did. Got the shit on film. Doesn't matter. Got the shit on film. But they couldn't care less. And this is what's really upsetting about this whole ordeal, man. Because... Hey, but hold on. Wait, you know what? I don't want to cut you off. But I want to say this. The cops actually have some nerve. And here's why. Because if you remember, Mayor de Blasio actually said that, it was excessive force, blah, blah, blah. Well, now the cops actually turned their back to him after this situation happened with the NYPD cops that just got killed. They turned their backs to him as a sign of disrespect, but unity amongst each other, as if he did something wrong or he's caused for this type of shit to happen because he didn't back them. Well, why the fuck is he supposed to back you when you were wrong? You were wrong. Why is it that they just feel like cops can get away with any fucking thing and you're supposed to back them no matter what? I don't buy into that.
No, I don't buy into it either, and I did see that. And there was also a petition that they circulated saying that they didn't want Mayor de Blasio at any funeral for a slain officer going forward. I don't know how much traction that petition has gotten. I don't know how many officers actually signed it or whatever the case is. But it amazes me that these fucking cops create this us versus them atmosphere. And then when they don't get support from the head, because the mayor is the head, he runs this, okay? But when they don't get the support that they're looking for from the head, then they then turn around and act as if it's him versus the cops. Or if it's him and the New York community versus the cops. So it's okay for them to create this us versus them environment by choking innocent people to death.
Right.
And then pretending as if it was their fault. But don't let you dare come out and say, hey, listen, maybe we did something wrong here. Maybe there was a misstep here.
Right.
Maybe it's not right to at least not take this to trial. I mean, something's funny about this. And we need to make sure that we're setting the best possible example of how these processes and procedures should be handled going forward so that we don't revisit this type of pain and this type of frustration and this type of division of community versus police that we're seeing right now. Oh, but no, Mayor de Blasio comes out and says, even with my own son, because he has a biracial son, even with my own son, I tell him to be careful in how you deal with the police. And that's not a knock at good cops.
Yeah.
But that's a knock at these cops that see a black man and see less than a person.
Yep. And
if you act as if somebody acknowledging these things is somehow taking on the entire force and saying that all police are bad and that there can't be any change that should be made, then what you're saying is that you're perfect. And there's not a police force on this planet that is perfect.
Nope, not a one.
Because it consists of human beings, and human beings aren't perfect. So there's no such thing as a perfect system. But when you see flaws, you have to look at ways to correct those flaws. And the problem with the NYPD is they don't want to take a look in the motherfucking mirror. They want to shoot motherfuckers. They want this stop and frisk shit where they can just stop any random motherfucker and pat them down for guns and weapons. But when you go back and look at the statistics, 90% of the people that they stop are black men and Latino men. And motherfuckers go, well, black and Latino men are the ones doing all the shooting, and they're the ones carrying the guns illegally and this, that, and the third. But that's not what the law stands for. So if I'm walking down the street and you decide to pat me down, I have a three-piece suit on, but you decide to pat me down because I'm black, I want you to pat every white motherfucker down, too, that walks past. Just so I know, as a citizen of this fucking community, that we all getting the same treatment. And I don't give a fuck what you do to me, as long as you do it to everybody else. I'm the same way when I go to a restaurant and I sit down, me and my lady, whatever we do, we sit down, I always watch to see how my waitress is treating everybody else. So if the bitch come over to us and she doesn't smile, okay, when you go to the other tables, I want to see you smile. If you go to their table and greet them and smile, I got a problem with you already. Treat me the same way you treat everybody else. And that's all to it, man. You can't have this policing where you take segments of the population that you're comfortable with because of how you were raised, where you were raised, or because of your race, and treat them one way, and then treat people that you aren't particularly fond of a different way. Because I'm going to tell you something that you may not know, NYPD. All black people aren't the fucking same. All black men are not thugs. We're not all violent. We're not all criminals. A lot of us ain't never been to jail. A lot of us never did a drug in our lives.
That's correct.
A lot of us never sold a drug in our lives. A lot of us were raised by strong black men that put their foot up our asses when we were kids, so we know better now that we're grown. And it is fucking unfair to treat us like you would treat the common street thug because we're black.
Right.
I got news for you, man. The dynamic is changing because a lot of these little white kids out here, these some hip-hop listening motherfuckers. And they some want-to-be black and want-to-be hood motherfuckers. And again, I said this before, I'm going to say it again. The dynamic is going to start changing sooner or later. All these black men being shot, you're going to start seeing these white boys getting shot. Yeah, but when these white motherfuckers start getting shot, that's when the nation is really going to be in a fucking uproar. A fucking uproar. And I'm going to tell you something else, too, man, because they try to make this shit about Al Sharpton. They try to make this shit about President Obama. I was reading today where former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, he comes out and says Obama has blood on his hands. And Obama and Eric Holder, Attorney General Eric Holder, have blood on their hands because of the way that they supported the protesters, which then created vitriol against the police department. Listen, there was division between the community and police department long before President Obama or Eric Holder said shit. All right? There's been division between police and community for the past 50 fucking years. Do you remember Jim Crow, bitch? Do you remember the civil rights movement where the police used to terrorize blacks in their own neighborhood? So don't act like the fucking civil rights movement came along and all of a sudden police and community were one. And now it's the blacks with their gun running and their drug dealing and this, that, and the third. That has nothing to do with anything. The reason there's division between police and community is because the people in power are not doing their jobs the way that they signed up to do, which is to serve and protect. They're doing their jobs like the thugs that they claim the community is full of. Yep. And some communities are. But when you have the police acting just like them, and they're supposed to be the people of power or the people of authority and the professionals, what good is that doing any community?
Yeah. Look, man, the police force is just like one big-ass gang, all right? Except they're a gang that has a uniform and a badge. And
we make this clear, too, man. We're not talking about all cops. But I do have a problem when good cops refuse to speak up against the bad cops. There's no fucking reason Steve Diallo should have been shot 41 times. No reason Adler Louima should have had a punch shoved up his rectum. No reason Trayvon Martin should be dead right now. And I know gentleman police officer, but the fucking police supported him.
Mm-hmm. So
they treated him like a cop. Now, every time you turn around, the motherfucker's taking pictures at the gun show on the beach, sitting around with cops and things like that. So, yeah, in my mind, he is something of a cop. But, you know, there's no reason in my mind that Michael Brown should be dead right now. There's no reason Eric Garner should be dead right now. There's no reason fucking Sean Bell should be dead right now. There's no reason Oscar Grant should be dead right now.
No.
But they get away with this shit time and time again. And then when the community is outraged and goes out and protests, then they go, oh, well, look at them. See, look, they were throwing bottles. And somebody did this. But we never take an honest inventory of what activities caused this outrage. Because it's not like these motherfuckers are going out in groups rioting every fucking day. They riot when some shit go down. And you have to ask yourself, why does shit keep going down? I had a conversation with somebody recently because we were talking about the Tamir Rice shooting. And that's another young man who should still be here. No reason he should be dead right now. But we talking about the Tamir Rice shooting, and this is a guy from the South, a white guy. He's actually a good buddy of mine. But I respect him because he's honest about his opinions. So we were talking, and he's he does armed security. He's not exactly a cop, but he's kind of a cop. Either way, we're having a conversation. And he says, you know, Jay, I don't really know about this Tamir Rice situation, but when we talk about things being captured on video, I always go back to the Rodney King situation. He said, you know what's the thing about that Rodney King situation? America saw the piece of that tape when the cops in his ass. What they didn't see is what led up to the ass whooping. He said when Rodney King got out of that car, he was fucking those cops up. He knocked one of them down. He slammed another one. He did this, he did that, he did this, he did that. I said, oh, okay. Because honestly, I never saw that. And even I still don't know if it was this because I didn't follow up and do research. But you know what I was thinking? Maybe he did. Maybe he did.
Maybe. So how do we know?
How do we know? So, but giving him the benefit of the doubt, okay, maybe he did. That's exactly what I said to him. I said, well, maybe he did. But the part that we all did see, that man wasn't fighting back.
Mm-hmm.
That man was defenseless by that time.
Right.
And they kept rolling on him. They kept it going.
Yeah, so once you knocked him on his ass and got him down, then why don't you just handcuff the motherfucker after that?
What I said was this. If a group of citizens, say it's three partners, and they have a confrontation with one person. And that one person gets in a couple licks on 2 out of those 3. And they knock him down, and they begin to boot stomp him for the next 20 minutes. Now, he's defenseless after the first 3 or 4 minutes. By law, we're talking about self-defense now. I'm not even talking about stand your ground and that bullshit. I'm just talking about normal self-defense. By law, you only have the right to defend yourself to a degree that is deemed reasonable to regain your security and safety. Mm-hmm. So 3 people are stomping out one guy for 20 minutes. And by the 4th or 5th minute, it was clear that he didn't need anyone stomping. He couldn't move. You done broke his kneecaps, you done broke his elbows, you broke his shoulder, you done bashed his face in. Past 5 minutes, he didn't need any more ass whooping, but you proceeded to give more ass whooping. And you end up killing this guy. Is that not then manslaughter?
Yeah.
It was quiet. He couldn't say anything. He said, I have to think about that one. But the point I was making more or less is if those cops had killed Rodney King, would that not then be manslaughter?
And the question is, would they have still gotten off? That's what I
would they have still gotten off? And they probably would have. Probably would have. But I'll tell you what, man, this rage that the people express and that they feel, it stems from the fact that we have shit on film and it still doesn't matter to motherfuckers. Nothing tells you that your black life doesn't mean a goddamn thing like having some shit on film of you being assaulted and motherfuckers look at the film and still go, no, he did shit. Nope, see, look, he coughed the wrong way. Oh, nope, see, he was fat. Oh, nope, see, he was sitting there arguing with the police. He shouldn't have talked back. Mm-hmm. Nothing, you can't do enough right on film when interacting with the police to not get your ass kicked and somebody go, you know what, that was unnecessary. The cop went too far. You can't do enough right. And it makes you feel like, why do I need to be respectful of the police? They're killing motherfuckers and juries won't even indict them.
Like you said, they will also go back into your life, meaning you the victim, and find any little thing they can to try and justify what happened to you 15 years later. Oh, when he was in the 7th grade, he got a beat on his math test. I mean, just any fucking thing, anything, just to try and say, well, this guy wasn't really that great of a guy anyway. So almost as if to what? To lessen the loss or to excuse his death? I don't think that's right. And I also don't think it's right to get mad at the mayor or anybody else, people who protest or the president or anybody who is saying, you know what, that shit was wrong. How about taking responsibility for your own fucking self, your own fucking actions, for your colleagues' actions and saying, you know what, I agree that shit was wrong. I agree that it was unnecessary. I agree that it was excessive.
Exactly. And stop trying to scapegoat the mayor. I mean, the problem is y'all so used to these punk-ass mayors that support any and everything you do, regardless of how fucked up and racist it is. But now that you have a mayor that actually stand up for something that's right and actually look out for minorities and the citizens and what's right for them, now all of a sudden it's a problem. And he doesn't support us and turn your back when he walks in the room and, sign a petition to keep him away from our funerals. So now you're creating another one. Now you have the community looking at you like you're fucking crazy. Now you have the mayor, who's your authority, who's your superior. Now you're creating a war with him and his office. You're putting yourself in a position now of complete and total civil unrest. Because I wouldn't be surprised if next day they didn't call for every officer to lay their badge down. Every New York police officer to lay their badge down. I wouldn't be surprised if they called for that.
Too much.
And, I mean, it's entirely too much. It's just ridiculous, man. There's so much divisiveness, and I feel like there was a time when, and maybe this was a small period of time, when right was just right. I feel like there was a time when if somebody had a plunger shoved up their ass, we didn't sit around and look for reasons to protect the person that did the shoving of the plunger.
Right.
It was, you put a plunger in somebody's ass, you got to go.
Yep.
That's fucking sick to begin with. Who thought of that? But initially, the motherfuckers that did this, they were going to let them go. They were going to try them at first until federal prosecutor stepped in or another prosecutor stepped in and said, hey, no, we need to get on this. This is disgusting. We can't have this go out the way that it's going. Something has to be done here. But motherfuckers were prepared to let that one ride. I mean, we're getting to a point where it's almost as if the lives of these minorities don't matter. We're right. We have the guns. Do as we say. A fucking dictatorship. I feel like it's coming this way. I mean, look at this. When that motherfucker out there in, I think it was, what was it, Vegas, Nevada. When that motherfucker Cliven Bundy out there in Nevada stood up against the government on that property of his out there, which wasn't his property, which was federal fucking property, and said, hey, no, you're not going to take my land, and he rounded up a small militia of motherfuckers. They come out there with rifles and shit and took up arms against the government. What did the government do? They backed the fuck all the way the fuck down. Like, can you imagine if 10 niggas with some guns, hey, look, we're going to take over some shit. We're going to, 10 niggas with some guns, and these are our projects. Please, nobody come in here. They would have blew the motherfuckers up on Malcolm X's birthday. But these white boys, they take arms against the government, and here come more white boys with guns. You know, it just amazes me how in 2014, damn near 2015 out this motherfucker, and we're still not at a point where a life is a life is a life. Look, what happened to these officers was terrible, man. They got kids and shit, man. It's almost fucking Christmas out here.
I agree.
It's just terrible. But if somebody told me that was Darren Wilson that got popped, or that other cop that got popped, I wouldn't have been happy so much. But I'd been like, oh, okay. I'd have been like, you know what? I guess what goes around comes around.
Mm-hmm.
J&J show Power 1-0. Our condolences to the two officers that lost their lives. Violence should not beget violence. And not for one eye leaves everybody blind. But to those in positions of authority, you have to take the lead on that. You have to be the one first to say, there's no need to escalate this situation. In fact, there's a need to de-escalate the situation to bring the community and the police closer together. Think about that one. J&J show, Power 1-0.